So forget the image of Albert Einstein, just staring at a chalkboard until a stroke of magical genius randomly hits him.
Or Thomas Edison just snapping his fingers and pulling the light bulb out of thin air.
Exactly. I mean, we have this tendency to romanticize brilliance. We treat it like a genetic lottery ticket.
Oh, for sure. Like a superpower you're just simply born with.
Yeah. But if you actually look under the hood of how true innovation happens, that whole magical narrative just completely falls apart.
It really does.
And so, welcome to today's deep dive. We are taking a stack of your sources today, centering around this wildly fascinating book by mathematicians Edward B. Berger and Michael Starbird.
Right. It's called The 5 Elements of Effective Thinking.
And their core argument is going to completely flip how you view intelligence. I mean, they basically propose that genius is a total myth.
Yeah, brilliant thinkers aren't magicians. They just relentlessly practice a very specific, honestly kind of mundane checklist of habits.
Which is such a relief to hear, honestly.
Oh, right. It fundamentally dismantles that pedestal we put geniuses on. What they argue, and they demonstrate this through history, psychology, and logic, is that the mechanics of brilliant problem solving can be learned by anyone.
Anyone at all, which is our mission today to uncover that secret.
Exactly. And to explain how, they use this framework based on the classical elements from ancient philosophy. Earth, fire, air, water, and finally, the quintessential element.
But just to be clear, they aren't talking about alchemy or magic here.
No, not at all. Each element is a very grounded metaphor for a distinct cognitive strategy.
And the stakes here are high for all of us. I mean, if you are listening to this on your commute, maybe dreading a complex problem waiting on your desk.
Or if you're a student drowning in a tough curriculum.
Yeah, or really just someone who wants to make sharper decisions. This framework is incredibly practical. So let's start at the very bottom.
The foundation.
Right. Before you can build an innovative skyscraper, you need to pour the concrete. And that is Earth.
Earth represents grounding your thinking and really understanding the absolute simplest things deeply.
Which sounds incredibly easy, until you realize how rarely we actually do it.
Oh, we almost never do it. Most of us mistake familiarization for deep understanding. We just skim the surface.
We do. And the authors use this painfully relatable story of a student named Silas to illustrate this.
Yeah, poor Silas.
Right. So Silas comes into his professor's office just fuming because he spent days studying for a test only to get a 58%.
And he essentially says, I knew all this material, I just made a bunch of stupid little mistakes.
But the reality was he didn't know the material at all, did he?
Not even a little. He had just memorized isolated facts to pass a test.
And memorization is incredibly brittle.
Precisely. Silas was like a builder who memorized what a hammer looks like, but never learned the physics of actually driving a nail.
Right. So the moment a test question varied even slightly from his flashcards, his entire foundation just crumbled.
It did. And to contrast that, the authors bring up Tony Plog.
Oh, the trumpet virtuoso.
Exactly, the internationally famous trumpet player. So he was teaching a master class, right?
Okay.
And he's standing in front of these highly advanced soloists, and they are playing incredibly complex, rapid-fire, high-register music, technically impressive stuff.
Like top-tier musicians.
Yes. But then Plog stops them, and he asks them to play a very basic, beginner-level warm-up phrase.
And suddenly, these advanced musicians sound like a middle school band practice.
It's crazy. They struggle to make the simple notes sound good.
Why? I mean, they're advanced.
Because they had rushed past the foundation just to get to the flashy stuff. But when Plog picked up his own trumpet and played that exact same basic warm-up, it was exquisite.
I bet.
The tone, the breath support, the nuance, it was literally a masterclass in a single breath.
So the underlying mechanism here is that true mastery isn't about accumulating complex skills at all.
No, it's about finding limitless depth in the basics. That virtuoso control over a simple scale is the exact same mechanical control required to play a breathtaking concerto.
Wow. It makes me think of Isaac Newton, actually.
Oh, absolutely, with the apple.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't invent calculus by locking himself in a room and staring at complex orbital mechanics. He started by watching an apple fall from a tree.
A super basic, everyday occurrence.
Exactly, that millions of people had seen, and he just asked why. But, there's another layer to this earth element that I found completely fascinating.
The clearing the clutter part.
Yes. The idea of clearing the clutter. They used Pablo Picasso's 1945 bull drawings to explain it.
That is such a great example.
Right, because Picasso didn't start with an abstract drawing. He started by drawing a highly detailed, anatomically perfect realistic bowl.
And then over the course of about a month and like 18 different iterations, he just kept erasing things.
He was hunting for these structural load-bearing pillars of the concept.
Yeah, he stripped away the shading, then the musculature, then the three-dimensional texture.
Until he was left with just 12 simple lines.
Yeah.
Just the essence of the bowl.
But, I mean, why does that matter for someone sitting in a boardroom today? Why is reducing something to 12 lines considered a stroke of genius?
Lots of cognitive load, right.
Exactly. When you clear the clutter, you remove the noise that distracts the brain. It forces you to identify what is truly essential.
So if you can't distill your project or your software or your business pitch down to its 12 essential lines,
Yeah.
you don't actually understand what you're building.
You really don't. And once you isolate that core, you then have the clarity to look at the space around it and see what is missing.
Which brings up Sylvan Goldman. This story blew my mind.
Oh, the shopping cart.
Yes. So it's 1937. He's a grocery store owner, and he desperately wants his customers to buy more stuff.
Naturally.
But he observes this physical limitation. People stop shopping when their handheld wire baskets get too heavy.
So he's looking at his store, looking at the problem.
And instead of focusing on the basket itself, he focuses on the negative space.
Yeah.
He realizes the missing element is mobility.
He literally takes a wooden folding chair, attaches wheels to the legs, and puts a basket on the seat.
Boom. He invents the shopping cart just by seeing what wasn't there.
It is a perfect example of Blinkist-level insight applied to the physical world.
Yeah, so if you are stuck on a problem, don't just stare at the data on your desk.
Right. Ask yourself, what is the absolute opposite of what is currently here? What assumption am I making that is blinding me to the empty space?
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, though. Let me play devil's advocate.
Go for it.
If I am leading a massive project at a tech firm, right, and I go to my boss and say, hey, we're going to halt production and go back to the extreme basics so we can clear the clutter.
You're going to get laughed out of the room.
Exactly. I mean, in a fast-paced world, isn't going back to simple things a step backward for a smart professional or an advanced student? It feels like wasting time.
Well, what's fascinating here is that it only feels inefficient if you view the basics as static.
Static, meaning they never change.
Right. The reality is that fundamentals are a moving target. The deeper you venture into a complex field, the more nuanced the basics become.
Oh, I see.
When you revisit foundational concepts after tackling advanced problems, they aren't the same basics you learned on day one. They are subtler. They are the launch pad.
So building on a cracked foundation might feel faster in the short term, but it won't last.
Exactly. Taking the time to pour solid concrete is the only way your ideas can actually scale without collapsing.
So assuming we have that rock-solid earth foundation, we still have to actually do something with it.
Right, you have to take action.
And the moment you introduce action to reality, you get friction, you get failure.
Which naturally leads us to the second element, fire.
Fire, which is all about failing to succeed.
Yeah, using the heat of mistakes to burn away the wrong answers. Because a perfect foundation doesn't guarantee a flawless execution.
Not at all.
Fire embraces the inevitability of messing up, but it completely recontextualizes what a mistake actually is.
Right, like Paul Allen and Bill Gates before Microsoft.
Oh, Trafo data.
Yes, in the early 70s, they started a company called Trafo Data.
Yeah.
They tried to build a computerized machine to read those pneumatic tubes that count cars on roadways.
And they built a prototype, tried to demo it to a local county, and the machine fundamentally did not work.
The business was a total abysmal failure.
But the hands-on engineering friction, like the specific ways that microprocessors failed to integrate with their software, gave them the exact technical insights they needed.
To pivot and create Microsoft.
Exactly. It proves that mistakes are just data points. They direct your attention.
Which reminds me of that brilliant story the authors share about Mary.
The art and literature student.
Yeah, she found herself trapped in a college math class, and she had severe math anxiety.
I think a lot of us can relate to that.
Totally. So one day, the professor asks the class a highly complex theoretical question about infinity, and he points right at Mary.
And she freezes.
Completely. She tells him flat out, I don't know the answer. Whatever I say is going to be wrong.
But the professor forces her to give a wrong answer anyway.
Yeah, so she stammers out a guess. He writes it on the board and says, well, you are absolutely right.
Wait, really?
No, he says, you are absolutely right that this is completely wrong.
Oh, wow. That is brutal.
Right. But then he says, now tell me just one specific reason why it's wrong.
I love that. So she looks at it, finds a defect, and points it out.
And he says, great, fix that one defect. She does. He asks if the new answer is right. She says no. finds another defect, and fixes that.
And they loop through this process 5 times.
5 times until she arrives at a perfectly correct, highly creative solution to a problem she originally thought was impossible.
That is incredible, but what is the psychology behind that? Like, why is it so much easier for her to fix 5 mistakes than to just think of the right answer to begin with?
Well, it comes down to the brain's cognitive barrier to entry. Staring at a blank page and trying to generate a novel, flawless solution from thin air requires immense cognitive load.
It's overwhelming.
Very. But the human brain is an exceptional critic. We are wired to spot anomalies and errors.
So by intentionally throwing a garbage answer on the board, she bypassed the blank page syndrome.
Exactly. She shifted her brain's task from create perfection to edit this specific flaw. It's like being a sculptor. You can't sculpt thin air. You have to throw a messy, ugly lump of clay on the wheel first just so you have something to fix. You need a bad draft to edit.
That makes total sense. It also makes me think about Spencer Silver at 3M.
Oh, the adhesive guy.
Yeah, he was trying to create a super strong aerospace adhesive, and he failed miserably.
He ended up with, what, like a super weak glue?
Right, this incredibly weak glue that stuck to things but peeled right off without leaving a mark. It was a useless failure.
Until a colleague, Arthur Fry, was getting annoyed at his bookmarks falling out of his hymnal at church.
Yes, Fry realized Silver's failed adhesive was the perfect solution for keeping bookmarks in place.
Creating the Post-it note.
Exactly. It's the concept of finding the right question to the wrong answer. Silver didn't throw the failure in the trash. He cataloged it.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. We can sit here and talk about the magic of failure all day, but in the actual workplace or in the classroom, failure stings.
It definitely hurts the ego.
Yeah, a failed project hurts, a failing grade hurts your GPA. But how do we deal with the emotional sting of failure? It still feels like an F.
What's fascinating here is you bypass it by redefining what the F means in the broader timeline of your life.
How so?
We have this binary view that success is the opposite of failure. But look at elite performance. In professional baseball, a player who fails to get a hit 60% of the time at the plate has a batting average of .40.
And that player isn't just good, they are a historical legend.
Exactly. Or look at Michael Jordan. He explicitly credited his massive success to the fact that he missed over 9,000 shots in his career.
9,000 shots, wow.
Yeah, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a scheduled stop along the way. You have to endure the heat of fire to forge the final product.
Which naturally begs the question, right? When you do fail, how do you know what to fix?
That brings us to air.
Air, by generating questions. Air represents being your own Socrates and letting curiosity breathe life into your thinking.
Because you realize that the quality of your solutions will never exceed the quality of your questions.
Right. And crucially, air isn't just about asking complex, high-level questions. It's often the most basic, seemingly naive questions that pierce through the noise.
The ultimate example of this is the brilliant physicist Richard Feynman.
During the 1986 Challenger Space Shuttle disaster probe, right?
Yes, you have a room full of bureaucrats, politicians, and highly credentialed engineers debating theoretical physics and complex math.
Trying to figure out why the shuttle exploded.
Exactly. And Feynman bypasses all the theory to ask a shockingly basic question about the physical materials.
He essentially asks, well, what if we just test the elasticity of a cooled O-ring?
Right there on live television. He drops a piece of the rubber O-ring into a paper cup of ice water, squeezes it with a C-clamp, and shows that the cold rubber loses its elasticity.
It doesn't bounce back. Mystery solved.
Proved it with a paper cup of ice water. Feynman's brilliance wasn't just his physics knowledge, it was his willingness to ask a question that grounded an abstract debate back in physical reality.
But generating air is also about identifying the real, actionable question, too.
Oh, totally. The authors use a very common scenario, sitting in terrible bumper-to-bumper traffic.
The worst.
Right, and most people grip the steering wheel and ask, how can this traffic be fixed?
Which is a completely useless question. Because you can't fix it. Unless you're the Secretary of Transportation, you are stuck.
Exactly. It's an external locus of control. The effective question shifts the locus inward. It becomes, how can I use this extra 40 minutes effectively?
Suddenly, you go from being a helpless victim to an active agent in your own life. You listen to an audiobook, you dictate an email.
You practice a speech. They apply that exact same logic to the educational fallacy, and it is a massive paradigm shift.
Oh, this part was so good. The authors point out that asking, how can I ace my exam, is fundamentally the wrong question.
It's as absurd as asking, how can I win a push-up contest tomorrow?
Right, because the exam isn't the actual goal. It's just a measurement of a daily habit.
You don't prepare for a push-up contest the night before by researching push-up theory. You prepare by doing push-ups every single day.
So the real question isn't how to ace the test tomorrow. The real question is how to practice the material under pressure daily.
And if you do that, the exam takes care of itself.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because society loves the idea of asking questions, but in practice, society often punishes people for it.
People hate asking stupid questions.
Yes, if you're in a high-stakes business meeting with executives and they are throwing around acronyms and complex projections, won't asking a basic question make you look incompetent to your boss?
There is a short-term social risk, yes. People might look at you funny for a second.
Right.
But what's fascinating here is the alternative is infinitely worse. The authors argue that pretending to know things means you are building your entire intellectual framework on a foundation of ignorance.
Because you don't actually know what they're talking about.
Exactly. Embracing the vulnerability of asking questions ultimately makes, far more over your lifetime.
It shifts you from a passive listener to an active creator of knowledge.
Right. You might endure a fleeting moment of embarrassment in that meeting, but you walk out with a rock-solid understanding, while the executives who are just nodding along are still faking it.
Wow. And when you constantly ask those questions relentlessly, you begin to notice a pattern in the answers.
You realize that ideas don't just appear out of nowhere.
They flow continuously from the past into the future, like water.
Water. This completely destroys the myth of the lone genius having a sudden eureka moment. Ideas are rivers that carve their way through history.
Take calculus, for example. We credit Newton and Leibniz with inventing it, but they didn't just manifest it out of thin air. They stood on the shoulders of giants.
Calculus was an evolution of existing ideas.
Yeah, when Leibniz published his first paper on it in 1684, it was only 6 pages long. 6 pages.
But if you follow the flow of that idea downstream, with generations of mathematicians adding to it, you end up with today's calculus textbooks that are 1,300 pages long.
Which is terrifying for students.
Yeah.
But you see the exact same flow in technological innovation.
Oh, definitely. Like the assembly line. Ask most people who invented the automotive assembly line, and they will say Henry Ford.
But Ford didn't invent it. Ransom Olds, the creator of the Oldsmobile, did.
Ford just looked at the flow of Old's idea and asked, can we do even better?
By adding a moving conveyor belt to the process.
Right. It's entirely about iteration. I mean, Hemingway rewrote the ending of A Farewell to Arms 39 times.
And eBay was just the ancient concept of an auction extended to the internet. But wait, I have an analogy. It's like a relay race baton being passed across generations.
That's a good way to look at it.
But if everything is just a small iteration of a past idea, if we're just passing the baton, does true originality even exist? Are we all just copying each other?
What's fascinating here is that originality absolutely exists, but it isn't about making a massive, unprecedented leap into the unknown.
So what is it?
True innovation is seeing the current summit, like, say, the iPhone today, not as the peak of the mountain, but as the base camp for the next climb.
Ooh, I like that.
And historically, newcomers without historical bias are often best positioned to take that next step. They don't carry the baggage of how hard it was to get to base camp. They just look at the current reality and ask, where does the river flow next?
Which carries us perfectly into the final hidden element. We've covered earth, fire, air, and water.
And in ancient philosophy, the quintessential element was the unchanging material of the heavens.
Right, but here the unchanging element is change itself.
Engaging change. Because the ultimate goal of all of this is to transform yourself into a different kind of learner.
And they use this metaphor of handwriting, which I thought was brilliant.
Oh, the eyes closed experiment.
Yes. If you write a sentence with your eyes closed, it's a massive struggle, right?
Yeah, it's doable, but it looks terrible and takes so much effort.
But if you open your eyes, it's much better. Now notice you aren't just doing the exact same blind task better.
You're doing an easier, completely different task.
Exactly. When you change your approach to learning, you literally recruit different neural pathways.
They demonstrate this with a memory exercise too. If I give you a random string of short words to memorize, like horse, order, because, easy, in, the.
My brain is going to struggle immensely. I'd have to repeat it 20 times.
Because it's trying to brute force disconnected facts. But if I give you a long, meaningful sentence using those exact same words...
Like, this sentence is easy to remember because the words appear in a logical order. That is, we did not put the cart before the horses.
Right. It requires almost zero effort to memorize. You provided context, which gives it meaning. The task itself transformed.
So what does this all mean? I mean, if changing how we think is as simple as opening our eyes or finding context, why do so many of us stubbornly refuse to change our habits?
Because we often rely on the brute force of trying harder at the wrong task. We think studying means staring at a textbook for 6 hours, and we wear that exhaustion like a badge of honor.
We memorize disconnected facts rather than trying to understand the context.
Exactly. Embracing change means letting go of comfortable, superficial learning in favor of deep, connected understanding. It feels daunting at first, but once you do, everything gets exponentially easier.
It really is a total perspective shift. We started this deep dive talking about the myth of the magical genius, and I think this framework thoroughly busts it.
It definitely does.
Effective thinking isn't a genetic gift. It's a daily practice of understanding deeply, earth, failing productively, which is fire, asking the right questions, air, and seeing the evolution of ideas, water, all culminating in personal transformation.
And, if we really apply the water element flowing ideas forward, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought based on the book's exploration of extrapolating the future.
Okay, let's hear it.
The authors point out that centuries ago, people accepted horrific practices like slavery as completely normal. It was an unquestioned baseline.
Right.
So if we flow ideas forward, what totally normal things today will be viewed as barbaric tomorrow?
Oh, wow. That is a heavy question.
Think about our educational system. Currently, it brands students with a permanent F on their record if they fail on the first try.
We define them by their initial fire.
Exactly. Might future generations look back at our grading system and find it culturally unacceptable to permanently label a learner as inferior just because they stumbled while building their foundation?
That is a challenging question to apply to our unquestioned daily norms. Really makes you think.
It does. It
Right.
forces you to look at what you're accepting as just the way it is.
Well, that is an incredibly profound place to end. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Be your own Socrates today and keep questioning everything.